Hey guys, Anthony Beckham here. Welcome to the channel where real estate is life. Today, I'm gonna be talking about my top 8 book recommendations for you guys getting into real estate. These are the books that I would recommend reading before getting started that are gonna give you all of the tools that you need to be a successful real estate agent. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. I have no other choice than to start with Robert Kiyosaki's own Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad is oftentimes a starting point for people getting into real estate, or especially in the real estate investing space. It seems like everybody who invests in real estate starts because of the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The book itself is kind of just about mindset, and that's why I think that it's a good place to start. It talks about the importance of working your way from an employee to a business owner and, eventually an investor who actually collects money off their business passively. The story is really easy to get into because there's actually a storyline, which is kind of rare with business books. Sometimes they can be kind of dry and boring. However, with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it's a pretty easy read just because there's an entertaining story that goes along with it. And the way that it breaks down is basically he has his rich dad, which is actually his buddy's dad, that's a business owner and owns all kinds of different businesses and teaches them the importance of business. And then his poor dad, which is his actual dad, who went the route of getting a government job, going to college, and just kind of the traditional route that we're taught in school. If you watch any Robert Kiyosaki videos or anything, it's like he's always talking about the rich versus the poor and what makes people rich, what makes people poor. And again, it's a lot about just the mindset. And I think that Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a great starting point for getting you thinking about becoming an actual business owner, which you, as a real estate agent or a real estate investor, are a business owner, and you should think of your business like a business. While Robert Kiyosaki does bring up real estate a lot throughout the book isn't necessarily a real estate book. It's more just about building a business and the mindset behind that. Because as a real estate agent or a real estate investor, even though you might not think of it that way, you are starting a business. This is a business that you're going to be running, and a great place to start is with that mindset. Robert Kiyosaki illustrates this point with his cash flow quadrant. So starting on the left side of the quadrant, we have E for employee. So this is the average person who just has a job. This is 95% of people. There's absolutely no leverage. It's just you trading your time for money. The next step would be self-employed, which this is basically where you own a job. And really, real estate agents can really fall into this. So you may work twice as hard as the next guy that has a W-2 job, but you're working for yourself. Once you get onto the right side of the quadrant, being a business owner, this is where you actually own a system, and there's more leverage to it. You can hire employees, and while you still may be a part of the business, this is kind of where I am right now in my business, even though you still work within the business, you have leverage through employees and people that can carry out those processes and systems even whenever you're not there. Then once you get into the final quadrant, which is investor, this is where you're not just leveraging people, but you're also leveraging your money. So as an investor, it's just your money that's working for you. You no longer have an active role in the business, which would be kind of like stepping out of CEO of your real estate company, once you have all the processes and systems and people in place to carry out the daily activities. So the goal here is to move you from the left side of the quadrant over to the right side. So you're no longer trading your time for money, and instead are leveraging people and the money you've already made to make more money, where eventually you can sit back and just collect paychecks, which is the dream. Number 2, we have The Millionaire Real Estate Agent by Gary Keller. Gary Keller, as in Keller Williams. So he's the CEO and co-founder of Keller Williams. And basically this book is the blueprint to start as a new agent, all the way up to the systems and process you'll have to have in place and the structure you'll have to have in place to be an agent that actually nets $1 million a year. So pretty useful information. The first being Gary's reference to leads, listings, and leverage. So the idea here is you don't have a real estate business without leads. Once you get listings, those listings generate more leads, which then requires you to go out and find leverage by hiring people. Basically, the more leads and the more listings you have, the more business you're gonna have and the more leverage you're gonna need by hiring people. And eventually, as you build out your team, you become the CEO of that team. And that's why you'll often see these mega producers and these big teams at Keller Williams Realty, because they follow the blueprint here of the millionaire real estate agent. Gary even takes this a step further by breaking down the 7 levels of leveraging your real estate business. I'm somewhere in level 4 or 5 with where I'm at right now. And I've tried several different structures just to fail, and now am more or less following this blueprint. And now it's working. So I think that in itself kind of explains the power of just following a system that's already been proven to work, which is exactly what Gary did. He interviewed a bunch of top producing agents, figured out how they have their team set up, and that's how the book was created. I find having the blueprint to creating a successful business as a real estate agent is a great starting point and definitely a must read as you're getting started as a new real estate agent. Next, we have number 3, which is the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. This is honestly one of my all-time favorite books. It's all about goal setting, and the basic principle of the book is, say that you have a goal of making $100,000. Well, that goal is not big enough. You need to 10X that goal. So you have a goal of making $1 million that year, and you're gonna be a heck of a lot more likely to make that 100,000 that you had originally planned for. And you might even end up doing way more than you ever thought possible, because Grant Cardone's all about pushing the limits and discovering your true potential. Grant explains that while you may not hit the $1 million goal, you will far exceed the original $100,000 goal and break through any invisible ceilings that we tend to put on ourselves. The 10X rule says that you should set targets 10 times where you would originally think that you would achieve, and then take actions that are 10 times greater than what you think it would take to hit that goal. And by doing so, there's really no other way other than massive action to fulfill your true potential. Grant believes that it is your duty to be successful and that success shouldn't really be an option. It's an obligation. So whenever you, your friends, your family need help, it would really be selfish for you to do anything less than your full potential. Now, just as a warning, in case you haven't ever listened to any of Grant Cardone's content or read any of his content, he does kind of have a little bit of a shock factor and a way of going about things where some of the information that you would probably want to take with a grain of salt. However, he is one of the world's top sales trainers and has created, I don't know, a multi-million dollar real estate portfolio and has great lessons and great concepts that he talks about in his books. Chances are it's probably gonna take a lot more work than you expect to become a top producing real estate agent. So read this book and make sure to get ready to 10X your real estate goals. Next is Be Obsessed or Be Average, another Grant Cardone book, which this and the 10X Rule are definitely my favorite books by Grant Cardone. And while there is some overlap and similarities with Be Obsessed or Be Average, it breaks down more into like his upbringing and how, a lot of us as kids are told, that ADHD and OCD and all these things are bad things, where in the book he talks more about channeling those obsessive behaviors into something positive and really what can come out of that. The lesson that stuck with me with this book was the fact that being obsessed with something isn't necessarily a negative thing. It's just being obsessed with the right thing that's gonna give you a positive result. Grant talks a lot about how we may be discouraged from friends and family members to really, tone it down. Don't work so hard. Are you sure you wanna do that? There's a lot of risk involved with becoming a real estate agent. Whatever those things may be, but those are the voices of the average. And if you want to achieve more than what the average person achieves, you will have to get obsessed with your craft. Another note on these Grant Cardone books is that in Grant Cardone's audiobooks, they're actually really easy to listen to because he personally is the one who is reading them off. And there's also a lot more content in the audiobook versions because he goes off on tangents. If you want to make more than the average real estate agent who sells a couple houses a year and would be better off working at McDonald's, then this is a good book for you. Next, we have The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And honestly, if anybody asks me what my favorite book is, this is the book that I mentioned. I've probably read The Compound Effect more times than any other book, and it has some great lessons, both just in your personal life and business. Darren himself has created a ton of success. He actually was even the CEO of Success magazine, where he sat down with the most successful people in the world, and he's just a cool guy to get a lot of good information from. He also mentions real estate and being a real estate agent plenty of times throughout the book because he was a real estate agent early in his career. I think that the lessons in this book apply towards any business, but especially being a real estate agent. The book's lesson is that small choices plus consistency plus time equal large results. So even though it might not seem like a big deal when you stay up an hour late, eat a cookie or don't make your sales calls one day, it's those activities that eventually lead to you being a depressed, obese real estate agent who doesn't sell any houses. While those things may seem drastic and maybe a little bit over exaggerated, he talks about how three very similar people can go on very different paths just because one watches an hour of television where the other one reads a book for an hour, and just those walks or eating healthy, and how those daily choices on a daily basis over time do create significant results, either positive or negative. As a real estate agent, you're going to have to show up every day. And with a simple discipline like making 20 sales calls a day, it's those small, seemingly small actions that are gonna equate to a booming business if you do it consistently. The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson is another all-time favorite, and it is more or less a similar lesson to The Compound Effect, basically stating that the small actions that you take every day will equate to big results, good or bad. Jeff talks about how 95% of people live a mediocre life and how he wants us to be part of the 5% who enjoy their lives. So whether someone is experiencing negative things like divorce or poor health, those are all effects of the slight edge, just the slight edge is working against you. Those small choices to spend extra time with your family, with your kids, to eat right, to exercise, those things are gonna have a huge effect on your life over time, even though they're maybe small, insignificant actions. And Jeff really just drives home the point that if you aren't doing those things, the slight edge is still working either way. It's just whether or not you want to use the slight edge to work for you or against you. I think that some people may overlook the lessons of, say, The Compound Effect and of Jeff Olson's Slight Edge just because it sounds so simple. That's kind of the point, is that there's these simple tasks like waking up early, eating right, making your calls every day that lead to huge results over time. And while they may be easy to do, they're also very easy not to do. And while these actions are gonna seem insignificant at first, when you're doing these little things every day, Jeff drives home the point that you are gonna get 1% better each day. And while that may seem insignificant or unnoticeable during the process, whenever you look back over a year and you're 365% better than you were at the beginning of it, that definitely will make a difference. Next, we have The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. Now, this is a lesson that shouldn't be overlooked, whether you're a real estate agent or a business owner of any kind, and that is gonna be your morning routine. So your morning routine and what you do in the morning is gonna be what sets you up for success the rest of the day. And Hal Elrod's book, Miracle Morning, is a great way to get started on the right path. Hal himself has an incredible story about being like a #1 salesperson who at a young age goes and gets into a car accident and is told that he can never walk again. And so he talks about, the steps that it took to basically get himself back up on his feet. And of course, as Hal puts it, it all started with his morning routine, which led him to do things beyond what he ever imagined. Hal calls his morning routine the SAVERS, which is an acronym. S is for silence, and it's about meditation or prayer and taking that 5 minutes every morning to self-reflect. A is for affirmations, basically just programming yourself to be successful and confident. V is for visualization of your goals, which will then in turn make them reality. E is for exercise, R is for reading, and S is for scribing, which is his way of making a word out of journaling. Hal teaches us how to run this routine every morning to get our mindset right every day. And for most of the savers, he says that you can do them within 5 minutes. You don't necessarily need to go to the gym for an hour for exercise. You could even just jump in place for 60 seconds. It's just about doing the actions to get your mind in the right place. Hal also goes over tips on how to actually wake up early, because if you're anything like me, you would probably say that you're not a morning person and you wouldn't be able to do this. But he not only debunks that myth, but he also comes up with different methods of being able to get yourself up earlier. Honestly, this is probably one of the most important aspects of business owners. If you look up millionaires and billionaires and the things that they are doing on a daily basis, oftentimes starts with a morning routine. Routines just make everything easier. They get you in the right mindset and get you on the path to success. Hal also has the Miracle Morning for real estate agents, which, I've kind of gotten mixed reviews on. I've read it myself. It's more or less the same principles of the savers. There's just stories of real estate agents mixed in, and whether they're fictional or not, I couldn't tell you, but might be worth checking out. Last but not least, we have The Millionaire Real Estate Investor, another book by Gary Keller. Now, I don't recommend another Gary Keller book just because I'm some sort of Gary Keller fanboy or something like that. This book has a lot of principles in the blueprint to basically becoming a millionaire through real estate investing. Now, I think that this is super important because as real estate agents, we don't have a retirement plan. And so whenever you're working in real estate on a daily basis and looking out for deals, you should definitely be thinking about acquiring some real estate for yourself. And as a real estate professional, you should want to know everything that you possibly can about real estate. And real estate investing books are a great way of doing that. Bigger Pockets Publishing also has a ton of great books. I've read every single one of them. And those things are going to give you more knowledge than maybe some of the other agents in your area. And another thing to think about is that you only need a few really good real estate investor contacts to really build a whole real estate business. I mean, what's better than one client that you may do 5, 10, 20 deals with every year? That's pretty hard to beat. And so by reading these real estate investor books, knowing how to communicate with investors, what it is that they value, and actually have some insight of your own can be very powerful in building your real estate business. And again, I can't stress enough, and I do talk about it a lot on the channel, you need to be investing in a real estate yourself. This is personally my retirement plan, and if I can stay on the path that I'm on right now, the goal is to be retired by 30 with at least $10,000 passive income coming in, which just means I would have the ability to not work if I chose not to, which, most people, especially real estate agents, you see 70-year-old real estate agents still out there having to peddle deals because they never started any kind of retirement plan. So if you're already in real estate, You're dealing with real estate every day. Why the heck not go out and buy yourself some properties? Now, if you're not a big fan of actually sitting down and reading for hours, I don't blame you. It's really fairly recently that I've gotten into sitting down and reading books to unwind. I own every single one of these also in an audio version using Audible. So I'll put a link down below the description if you want to check that out. If you click on that link, you'll actually get a 30-day free trial to Audible. And if you're an Amazon Prime member, they will give you 2 free audiobooks. And you get to keep those audiobooks even if you cancel the free trial. So there you have it. These are the top books to become a top producing real estate agent. If you start out with Robert Kiyosaki, getting your mindset right, then hang out with Gary Keller, get the blueprint that you need for every step along the way of becoming a millionaire real estate agent. Read a little bit of Grant Cardone to get your goals set, and then get your daily disciplines in action with the Slight Edge and with Darren Hardy's Compound Effect. And don't forget about your morning routine as a real estate agent and how important that's gonna be, and finish up with figuring out how to also leverage real estate for your own retirement. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Big shout out to Montclair Mike. Magic Mike left the comment down below asking for us to make this video. So if you guys have any good ideas for videos or things that you guys would like me to go over, go ahead and comment those below. And if you aren't subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button and follow us on the journey to Real Estate Millionaire. So I appreciate you guys watching, and of course, I will see you next week. See ya.